So I was so tired after getting the system up and working the day previous. So today I'm hoping all I need to do is connect a floppy emulator, load up the Fairlight software, and we should have a booting system. It was 1982 and I'm coming up on my 10th birthday now. A random person turns up at the house carrying a briefcase. They dropped off the briefcase, my father thanked them for it, then they left. So the briefcase had a bit of a stencil paint and some Hewlett-Packard logos on it. And I was really interested what was in here. For some reason the briefcase just sat there for about 2 hours, just sitting by itself in the kitchen while my father looked after something else. Finally, I was going to see what was inside. It was opened up and it was full of electronics and keys. I had no idea what this was, but it looked very technical. So of course the excitement was growing and I needed to know what this was. So I asked, what is it? I was told it was a computer. Now I knew enough to know computers normally don't come in briefcases. They're huge. A power cord came out. It was plugged into the side of the briefcase. It lit up and it said ULab. Well, as much as you could say anything on 8-segment LED displays. My father reached inside, pulled out a manual that was about this thick and started thumbing through it. We went through the pages, found some instructions, typed in some code on the keypad and pressed go. And the whole thing sprang to life. LEDs lit up, sound came out, and this little tune played. This was a computer. So probably about 2 hours after that, my father lost interest, turned it off, and went back to doing whatever he was doing previously. So I grabbed the lid, put it back on, took a while to figure that out. Off to my bedroom it went. So for the next few weeks, I started learning a little bit about programming. I learnt this thing called hexadecimal. This really was the first time I got to use a computer. I got to program, and I got to experience complete control over what happened next. So picking up exactly where we left off last time, I've put a floppy drive cable into the floppy card, I've got my floppy emulator, and I've put a copy of the Fairlight operating system on an SD card. So we're just about ready to try and boot. And you can see I've still not fixed that video cable from the other day. So a bit of a play around and we should be just about ready to see if the Fairlight will boot. And no, nothing at all. It's not even reading the disk. I'll try resetting the system, checking everything I've done. For those that are a bit more computer and technically minded, you might be able to see the error that I've made here. I'll give you a few seconds. So when IBM adopted the floppy standard for the PCs, they actually put a twist in the cable to define drive B from drive A. So drive B ends up at the end of the chain, and I've used one of those twisted cables. So let's try it again with a proper floppy cable. So two things I'm going to have to fix. One is I have to manually select the floppy image every time I boot. And the other one is the monitor takes so long to warm up, I'm just wasting time. But anyway, let's see if this works. Loading, that's a good start. That's not good. Okay, that's a bizarre error because I'm sure those images are fine of the floppy disks. So I'll try swapping out the master card. The master card is the thing that runs all the voice cards, but it's needed to be able to get the Fairlight into the operating system. And once again, it's taking me forever to push those cards in. Alright, let's try again. Fingers crossed. And we're loading. Ah, same again. It turned out the SD memory card just wasn't seating properly in the floppy emulator. Some of the plastic around it had actually broken off over the years, so I fixed that. Let's try it again. No, and that looks worse. What even is that? Okay, sometimes when things aren't working, it's best to walk away and focus on something else for a while. So when I bought the Fairlight from David in Belgium, one of the things I had to consider was how heavy and how big the packaging was going to be. I was assuming we could get some boxes, wrap it all in bubble wrap, and it'd all be good. But as we've discussed, Fairlights are very heavy and very large. So a few months before this Fairlight became available, a Fairlight music keyboard turned up on reverb.com. I sort of watched it for a while, and initially the price was a bit crazy, and slowly over time the price dropped. The price came down to a good price, but that was only if it was working. The seller had no other parts to the Fairlight, just a keyboard. So my theory was it was probably broken. I put in a sneaky offer, and with a little bit of negotiation, that offer was accepted and the keyboard was delivered. Interestingly, besides the woodwork showing it's 40 years of age, the rest of the keyboard looks pretty mint. So let's restore it and let's see if we can get this to be a good match for the CMI. So right at the moment, I've got no way to test this keyboard. I've got no way to check if the keys are working or if I've got any dead keys. And the sliders on the left-hand side there are pretty seized, so I'll have to deal with that. But the main thing to do is just sort of fill the woodwork, sand it back, repaint it so it looks nice and fresh, and then we'll wait until we get the rest of the system up. So you can see that these sliders are so frozen. Actually, two of them seem to move okay, but one of them is so frozen and I can't even get the cap off the top. So I'm just filling with a spatula, and what I'll do is I'll sand this down like I said, and then I'll come back with a damp cloth just to take off any excess filler. And with a bit of luck and quite a bit of work, we should have a pretty mint looking Fairlight keyboard. So just cleaning up inside, there was a bit of loose dirt and I didn't want that to get into the paintwork. And once again, it's time to take it out to the paint booth. So when you're doing this type of work, it's all about the preparation. I spend quite a bit of time getting this to a point where I can actually paint it. Some of the original paint is actually flaking off, so I'm going to sand that back, especially around the key bed. For some reason that's become very loose. So it's all about moving quickly and trying not to layer too much paint on all at once. So we'll come back and do multiple coats over the next few hours, but time to just get some of those sliders and some of the slight black paint that's come off fixed, as well as cleaning the keys themselves. Like I say, the keys look pretty much brand new, but they are caked in dust and dirt from just sitting there for 40 years waiting to be used again. So looking at the serial number and having a chat to Peter Welk, we decided that this is probably somewhere between the 15th to 18th keyboard to actually come out of the Fairlight factory. And if you can see the CMI 10 board when I get out of the way, that's the board at the back with all the electronics on it. That is a really early board. It's got so much manual revision on that board, and I'm gonna let you into a secret, that's gonna come back to bite me later. So I don't feel like repainting this at the moment, so what I'm gonna do is use a paint pen. So it's not just a normal Sharpie, it's not a felt texture, it is actually paint in a pen. So once I've actually drawn this on, this will obviously wick off a little, it'll dry, and it'll be a pretty good match for the paint that's already there. And just removing little scratches like this tends to make things look so much better, and once again so close to factory fresh. So like any other paint, what I'll do is I'll do a first coat and then come back and fill some of the other areas. but pretty much that looks so much better. Speaking of paint, time to put our final coat on the wood, and we should be almost ready to put this back together. It's amazing how close this off-the-shelf paint is to the original Fairlight colour. Realistically, I cannot see a difference between the paint I'm putting on versus the paint that's already there. So after putting it all back together, I'm going to take the risk and plug it into the Fairlight Series 3, just the power, and see if it comes up. It actually boots. It actually boots the firmware. That's unbelievable. Okay, back to getting this system to boot. Okay, maybe this time it'll... back to beg again. Alright, you can see I've got a spoon there. My fingers are so sore from pushing those cards in and out that I'm trying to use a spoon. Unfortunately, I didn't have a wooden ruler to use. Sorry, Chris. But, yeah, my thumbs are so sore. I actually found a trick not long after this for getting cards in and out without it really hurting.
Oh. So it can only be the 133 or the processor.
Okay, swapping out the processor. You can see I'm getting desperate at this point. I'm just swapping anything to try and get the system up. And we're not making any progress at all. So swapping out more cards. I think I'm swapping in another 133 again just to see if I can get this thing to boot. Starting to get a bit frustrated and a bit of brain fog. Time to check that I'm actually recording. Let's try again.
Right. Why are you not clearing?
So that means the reset signal to the processor isn't working, so the processor's not even starting up, it's not running code. We are way back at the beginning of where I started yesterday. I am going round in circles and not getting anywhere, and I'm really, really starting to get fatigued.
Okay, 133.
No, and this is where you start getting sure that it should be working, so you just spend forever moving the same things around. So I built a single voice CMI 2X a few years back. Some of you might have seen that clip. So I'm able to use that now as a bit of a test bed, and I'm going to test every one of those cards to make sure they pass all the in-depth diagnostics. As you could see there, I was checking the video card. The video card worked, but maybe there's different revisions, so we'll try a different video card. That didn't work. So you can see I'm just still swapping in and out parts and trying to get it to work. So here's a better shot of the test bed. And I'll only have this test bed for a little amount of time because I've promised to send Peter Welk the actual motherboard at the back to be used in another Fairlight system. I must say, the diagnostics on the Fairlight, absolutely amazing. They will come in so useful over the next few weeks. Diagnostics just go through each of the functions of the cards, they check them methodically. If they pass, they pass. If they don't pass, you normally get a really good error that tells you pretty much exactly where the problem is. The problem I've got is all the cards are passing the diagnostics. There's a few things I can't check at this point, so the lightpen and voice cards. So I worked like this for the next few hours, and in the end I decided I'd remove all the jumpers off the 133 card again in pure desperation. I'd go back to the service manual and I will place those jumpers back exactly where the service manual says, and I'll see if it works. That's all I can do, and I'm pretty frustrated, a bit despondent at this point. Alright, time to put it back together and boot the system. I know it's not going to work. I just can't find what the error is. Yes! Oh, finally. It boots in the mainframe. Oh, we have a working system. Yay, photo time for the Facebook group. That is a huge relief. So unless if you buy a fully restored Fairlight today, no Fairlight is going to be like another. They're all going to be slightly different revisions. All I can think is I've got two different revisions of the 133 card. For some reason my original 133 card, which is fully working, just will not run in this motherboard. We'll have to sort that out at some point in the future. It booted. We are getting close. So at this point, I'm still hoping I'm just going to put the voice cards in. They'll all work. My guess is the analog audio section probably won't work, so we'll have to put in some work there. Hopefully we should have this working pretty fast now. But next time we're going to have to address the monitor. I'm going to have to get that monitor working. And the light pen. Thank you for watching. I'll chat to you next time.